And I turn it over to you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hi, thank you guys for inviting me to host one of the Rush classes. My name is Astrid Berners-Daughter in the Society, and my mundane name is Tana Birchnell. I have a background of working at Wichita State University as a studio manager, and I have a master's degree in sculpture. With that in the society, I serve as the Arts and Sciences Minister for Batavia. And if nobody is familiar, that is in Wichita, Kansas. So yeah, let's get this party started. I hope all of y'all can see my screen well. Um, there we go. Perfect. All right. This presentation was given first to encourage our local group to enter Kingdom Arts and Sciences. Um, there were a lot of people within our local area that were kind of hesitant to enter because entering arts and sciences competitions can be intimidating, particularly when you've never done it before or don't have a background in arts and sciences within our kingdom. So um, it was kind of my want to bring a presentation to our populace to encourage competition and also increase the number of entrants or entries that these competitions have. It worked out really well. We had a high amount of people within our barony that entered. So I was encouraged to bring the presentation to the Rush class so more people could enjoy it. Disclaimer, I am very dyslexic, so if you see a lot of misspellings or grammar errors in this presentation, please just save them to yourselves and let me know afterwards, and I would be very appreciative of that. Um, yeah. Also, I'm known for giving very long, boring PowerPoint presentations. So if y'all are bored with me, man, just stop me. But with that, this presentation is meant to be given to anybody who wants to learn about entering competition or who wants to actually give this presentation. At the end, the last slide on this show, there is a informational about entering a mock judging, which is what we in Batavia did to encourage potential entrants to practice their skills of being judged and also judging for the first time so that they could get a better feel of what it's like before doing the actual thing. If you are an arts and sciences minister or somebody who is interested in disseminating that type of information to your local baronies or chapters, let me know. And I will definitely get this package over to you and any of the scheduling information that I have. Again, as well, throughout this presentation, there's going to be stopping points, and I will pause and allow you guys to ask all your questions. All right, so in this presentation and in arts and sciences competitions, what are we looking for? What's happening? What should we be prepared for mostly in these events? To have fun. Okay, that's the number one priority. If you're not going out to society events to have fun, what you doing? Um, so sometimes arts and sciences events are not everybody's cup of tea, but if you spend some time with them enough, you'll be able to find certain areas that really intrigue you. And many people go to these events for different reasons. I enjoy attending them as a judge, mostly. Some people really enjoy the competition of it. Other people want to go to see the entries, to see their friends, to socialize. All these things are valid. So when preparing for an arts and sciences event, take a little bit of time to take inventory of where your joy is. Um, But if you are going as a entrant or a judge, there's some more things that we need to discuss, which we will discuss in this presentation. Sharing your journey is a big one, particularly if you are entering the competition. Be prepared to talk about how you did the thing, what you did in order to get to where you are. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be interested in what you do, not just judges. Um, Also, be prepared to give and receive feedback. This is a big one. Not everybody wants that. So if that is something that you're not into, be prepared to be like, hey, not really interested in receiving feedback at this time. Um, that's important. But if you do want feedback, definitely be prepared for that. And finally, to see and be seen. This is a good opportunity to see all the things that are happening within the kingdom. And when I say kingdom, I am speaking about Palantir. This presentation will talk mostly about the standards within the kingdom of Palantir. All right, so let's talk about the two major events that Palantir hosts. One would be Kingdom Arts and Sciences, and the other will be Queen's Prize. Kingdom Arts and Sciences has two different competitions. One would be the tri-levels, and the other would be championship entries. I always get these confused because championship entry is for to find the champion of the kingdom. You're competing against other individuals to receive that title. This type of entry usually requires 3 different entries in one big presentation. Okay, it's judged at an advanced level, and it can be quite an undertaking to complete one of these projects. The tri-level competitions, you're competing against yourself. You're entering as an individual person, either as novice, intermediate, or advanced, and you will be judged against yourself and the criteria that you choose to be judged on. Queen's Prize Tournament, and by the way, you can find most of this information on the Palantir website, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we continue with the presentation. Queen's Prize Tournament, people who enter this have to be sponsored either by a Callan Lily or a Silver Hammer or equivalent. And I believe you can't have a Callan Lily or a Silver Hammer or equivalent to enter this competition. So it is reserved for the up-and-comers within the kingdom. This is a really fun event. The sponsorship encourages a lot of collaboration between individuals, and everybody leaves with a prize because the people who are taking entrance prepares ahead of time for that. I've loved every single Queen's Prize I've been to, but those are the main differences between the two major arts and sciences competitions for our kingdom. So getting started, getting signed up. Some of these competitions take a very long time to prepare for, but usually a month or so before the event, probably longer, there will be a post on social media, on the Kingdom website about entering in this competition or entering as a judge. There will be a form, usually a Google form, and it will be pretty straightforward. It will ask you about your entry. Also, what your name is, if you have any awards. It will also ask you if you have any special requests. This is the time to fill out and give as much information as possible as you can to both the people who are coordinating the event and the judges about what your entry is. Also, on the flip side of that, there is a form for judges. This form will basically ask you what types of entries you will be interested in or qualified to judge. And it may also ask some questionnaires about your scheduling. as a disclaimer, if you're entering a research project or something that is considered research, you will be asked to submit that document ahead of time because these projects tend to be extra long. And judges want to get their hands on it before before the competition date. All right, for those of you who have never attended an arts and sciences event before, what is the event going to be like? It starts just like every other event. You go in and you gate in. After gating in, there's going to be two different tables, or one, depending on how it goes. They will be for the judges and the entrants of the competition, where both judges and entrants can get their paperwork. This paperwork will include the criteria in which the entrant has entered as well as any forms that they need to take with them for their judging. And for the judge, it will usually contain a schedule. These are super important because there will be four different judging slots, usually four different judging slots for an event. And there's a little bit of a break in between, as well as a break for lunch. And it works pretty much like clockwork. We love the autocrats and people who are in charge of these events. It constantly amazes me, the amount of skill it takes to schedule everything in place. So let's talk a little bit about arts and sciences criteria. And this will be the slide that we stop at before we move forward. The criteria for arts and sciences in Calunteer, you're going to be able to find on the Calunteer website under the arts and sciences tab on the webpage. When you click on that, it's going to open you up into a Google folder with a bunch of Google documents. Each of them listing all the links of the different criteria at both the subject matter and the skill level. And we'll talk some more about that. This is a good stopping point. Is there any questions so far? All right, I will move right along then. All right, so two splits within the arts and sciences criteria. Okay, there is the level at which you will be judged at, which is separated into novice, intermediate, and advanced. And within those different criteria, there are different areas in which you will be judged upon, which would be documentation, authenticity, complexity, workmanship, and overall quality. All right, so the question that I get a lot, the question that I get most is what level should I enter my work at? And this is kind of a toss-up. If I was an entrant and I had no idea about where to start, I would start at novice because usually if you don't know where to start, you've never entered a competition before. And if you've never entered a competition before, it's a good idea to start at the base level to get an idea of what's going on. This can be kind of a blessing and a double-edged sword at the same time. I had a friend who recently entered a arts and sciences competition. I believe it was Kingdom Arts and Sciences that they entered in as a novice, and they brought their sewing project to be judged, and the judges just ripped into them. And almost right at the end of the judging, they were like, yeah, this is my first competition. I'm entering in as a novice. All the judges collectively perked up and were like, excuse me? What? And they had no idea what level she entered in at because she didn't mention it beforehand. And when she revealed to the judges what level she was at, they were completely shocked because they thought with the work that was in front of them that she was an advanced student. She was an advanced entrant. So when other people think that your work is at a certain level, that is a good place to start. But if you've never had that feedback before, always start at a novice level. Another reason why you might want to start at novice level is if you're trying something completely new, like completely new to you. Say that like I have taken many years to perfect my craft in baking, right? And I've entered many competitions with breads that I've done, but I'm going to switch it up this next competition, and I'm going to make a egg tempera painting, something I've never done before. I might then consider being judged as a novice in that field. So let's say that you're ready for the intermediate level. Um, I would say going into intermediate means that you're ready for more and different types of feedback, but not quite ready to go into the advanced judging pool just yet. Um, that would be a good intermediate level starting point. At advanced level, I would expect the person to be prepared for a lot of feedback that is more advanced. Uh, they know what they're talking about, and they are aspiring to or preparing to enter a championship competition somewhere within the next 2 years. All right, that's when I would expect entrants to start entering at an advanced level. But if you're still having a hard time, you can always ask your friends or mentors. Okay, there's a lot of people within this kingdom who would love to review your documentation or your projects, and they will tell you what would be the best way to go when it comes to entering at a certain level. Um, Also, like if you've worked really hard on your project and you've prepared your documentation, sometimes looking at your document or having somebody else just look at your document can tell them where you are in the level of entries. We'll definitely talk more about documentation as this presentation goes. Um, yeah. Are there any questions on what level of judging y'all should enter at? All right, let's continue. This is an example of one of the criteria. This happens to be for cooking. I picked it up off of the Kingdom webpage. Each criteria will have different sections. As you can see here, this is just the beginning page. It lists that it is a single dish in cooking and novice, and it will continue with the different areas in which you would be judged at. Sometimes placing your project within a certain area is hard. For example, Valeriano, one of the members in Batavia, had a research project that she wasn't sure if it could be considered under any category because it was a spreadsheet of data analytics for heraldry. But we all encouraged her that yes, this was definitely something that could be entered into arts and sciences competitions. And I think in the end, we decided that the best area for it would have been research. So she entered it as a research project. Some of them, of course, are cut and dry. If you have a single dish, you're cooking something for someone. But there are a few categories that are kind of in the gray areas. One of them would be miscellaneous. If you really can't figure out where your project goes, you can always enter it as a miscellaneous project. This allows for a broad subject matter to be explored. Also, there are there is a section, usually in some competitions, that would be for display only. So if you want to enter something and you don't really want judges' feedback on it, you can enter it as display only to be seen, to be displayed and seen in the not in the competition, but in the event. All right, now we're getting into what are the different criteria areas. Remember, we had documentation, authenticity, overall workmanship, let's focus on authenticity. Um, when people are talking about authenticity, we're talking about like, is it to period? Are the techniques, the subject matters, the elements authentic to the extended example that you are pulling from? Um, the biggest, the biggest like caveat to this one would be if something is dangerous to work with or cannot be worked with anymore, such as like lead paint or lead glaze. Those would be definitely too toxic to work with. Or let's say the expense is too much for one project, such as gold leafing. All right. But really, what people are trying to, what judges are looking for in this category is, do you know the form and function? Did you try to create this method, this approach? Are you knowledgeable about the material uses? Are you knowledgeable about the designs, the motifs in period? Complexity. This would have to do with the scope of the project, the ambition. Uh, Judges are looking for how much you not only pushed yourself, but also that the project demonstrates a certain level of difficulty in either the technique, the design, the number, the amount, the media, and the workmanship. Also, complexity within original works and ideas. One of my competitions that I entered, I followed everything by the book, but I didn't leave any room for any experimentation of my own. This was something that I was called out on in my competition. So when making your arts and sciences competitions, your entries, consider adding your own touch to certain things. Judges sometimes really appreciate that. Workmanship. This is one of the biggest ones. This will have to do with something very close to craftsmanship. All right. Are your skills within your project uh, close to the original or mastery of that technique? Take this all into account as to what entry level you're entering in at. But basically, how did you make the thing, right? Uh, what materials did you use? Are you in a line with the design, the period, the aesthetic, the workmanship of that period? Does the work function as it should? Does it look as it should? Are you using period styles or any other types of personalized or special embellishments? This one is wonderful. The overall quality. A lot of times I will hear judges say, "Do I want to take it home?" That tends to be the standard for overall quality. Basically, from the ground up, judges will be looking for, did you use period styles? Was this endeavor period and in period method? Was it unique? Was it complete? Was it authentic? Um, but judges are not only looking for the project itself, they're also looking for how did you respond and react within your judging? Were you attentive? Were you gracious when you received feedback? Were you knowledgeable? Could you verbalize your knowledge? Also, does your documentation align with what you've made? Does your display align with what you've made? There's a lot to consider with overall presentation and overall quality, not just the thing that you've made. All right, now we're getting into the documentation, the big one. Everybody tends to be super fearful of documentation. Doesn't matter what competition it is. So I'm gonna have a little bit of a pause right here. Is there any questions um, so far within the presentation? All right, let's continue. So documentation. If if you ask 15 different laurels within our kingdom what documentation is, you're going to get 15 different answers. All right. And this is probably where I deviate from the notes or the documents that Palantir has the most because of my background. The everything up to this point has been pretty much what is on the kingdom website. From here on out, it's a lot of me inserting my opinion. So take it with a grain of salt. Um, the document is not just the paper and the words that you put on it. Documentation also includes a lot of the verbal feedback you're giving with your judging. All right, so the judges are going to sit down with you. There's going to be three of them, and they're going to start talking to you, asking you questions about your project, about what you did, how you got there, and you are expected to verbalize your knowledge, to talk about what you've done. So that is also a part of the document. But when it comes to documentation, if you've written down a lot of the information that you've researched, this present this judging will be a lot easier. Okay, this portion of the judging will be a lot easier because um, you'll already have put down into words what your knowledge is. So with that, don't be afraid of the document. Please do not put it off until the last minute. And I know y'all, us artists, we do put things off to the last minute. It's not great. It's not the best thing in the world. The more that you can put down on paper beforehand, the better off you're going to be. Um, so when it comes to gathering knowledge, make sure that like you save all the little bits along the way, right? That's going to make everything a little bit more easier. Um, what I like to do is I like to gather links to different sites that I have uh, pulled knowledge from, and I will save them all in one big document. That way I can go back and pull them up when I'm ready to sit down and actually write the document. Also, I like to gather books. None of us in the society would know anything about that. Uh, that is a good way to do it. When you start to get into more advanced documentation, you may want to start doing things like annotated bibliographies where you're reading these long, lengthy articles and making certain notes in certain areas of certain books and articles to point you back to where you got that piece of information. If you are at the novice level, I wouldn't expect people to start writing annotated bibliographies for that because it's definitely not required. But that is a good way to start gathering information is to build kind of that source list for yourself. Um, Also, please do review the document criteria before you make the document or enter the competition. I have definitely been that person who has completely not looked at the criteria at all and then entered a competition and been kind of a little bit blindsided when I was judged accordingly. Uh, so please look at the Kingdom criteria for the skill level and the category that you're entering in at. Um, at the very minimum, if you are just completely scared of a documentation, please answer the who, what, when, where, why, and how to the best of your knowledge, to the best you can. when writing your documentation. And also, please explain how you made the work that you made. Make no mistake, the most important thing about entering an arts and sciences competition is the actual work. Okay, I'm a big documentation nut because I have a college background. So I really do want to see the document. I want to read the document. I'm about it. But when it comes down to it, it's all about the work that you bring, the work that you present. Um, Also, in your document, if you wanna give a little bit of extra to the judges, let them know where you're gonna go next, right? Because this hopefully isn't the last thing you make, right? So let them know what you want to do next, what you would have done differently, what you enjoyed about this project the most. Those are really good questions to answer in your conclusion. Do not let fear of failure stop you. Um, that's a big one to overcome. It's easier said than done, but yeah, you are valued. Please enter the competition. Also, go to your library, go to your local library, and please use all the tools you can, like AI and Microsoft, to create a citation. All right. All right, what are good references? Okay, I struggle with this, even though like I have a background um, in the universities. Doesn't mean that I'm a strong researcher. So a quick overview of what primary, secondary, and tertiary sources are. Primary sources are the actual thing, either the actual extant example, right? Or the actual written record of what happened, okay, with like no commentary. Secondary sources are like any analysis of the primary source. Also, it's often used to describe the primary source, right? A tertiary source would be some sort of abstract index, uh, something that is not categorized under the primary or the secondary source. Of course, primary sources are, the gold standard, but I have written a lot of papers with awesome, wonderful secondary sources that are just perfect. There are a lot of people within our kingdom that are super into research. Vashti is one of them. Um, you turn your head anywhere in this kingdom to somebody who's into the arts and sciences, and they will be more than willing to help you. If you're struggling, you can reach out to me, and if I can't help you, then I can point you to somebody who can. Also, your local arts and sciences minister for either your barony or your local chapter will be able to help you find those resources as well. Um, yeah. The only other things that we need to consider with sources is their reliability. I mean, Wikipedia is perfectly fine as long as you go down to the bottom of it and click on the links where Wikipedia found the actual information. Everybody has their own comfortability level when it comes to finding reliable sources. Um, but we also need to be aware that some of the sources that we pull from are a little bit culturally out of touch. Okay. Me being a person that enjoys the Viking eras, the Viking times, there was a lot of use of Viking culture, um, and even some Viking digs that were done by certain German parties that were happening during World War II. So that can be a little bit of, it can be something that we need to be sensitive to. Um, Also, there are a lot of sources out there who are not very kind to certain native populations. These are things that you need to keep an eye out for, but for most of our entrants are not going to be overly concerning. It's just something to keep in mind. How to improve voice in grammar and spelling. This is something that I am super passionate about, being a dyslexic individual. And I have learned a few tips and tricks over the years. I will definitely have somebody look at my document and or I will pay somebody to edit my work. I know a lot of people can't afford to have somebody edit their work, but I have friends that work in the field, so I'm super lucky to have that resource for myself. But at the very least, you definitely should have somebody look at the document before you submit it. I have definitely embarrassed myself before by submitting documents that were not up to snuff. So having somebody else read it, right? That's a good one. Trading the document with a friend. All right, let's say that you have a friend who's also entering the arts and sciences competition that you're going into. That's a wonderful resource. Swap documents, right? This might make you have to complete your document before the competition because you need to get it to your editor in time for your presentation. Um, if this is your first time entering an arts and sciences competition, uh, please have somebody look at it that has entered before. All right, you might get some really interesting feedback. Um, and please use AI responsibly. Please don't have AI write your whole document. That that's disappointing. And it's also not your voice, right? It's also not very interesting. I do definitely use AI to help with my spelling and my grammar. I would encourage that, but when it comes to having AI write your whole document, that's just not cool. Also, read your document out loud. Some computers have a feature that will allow them to read it back to you, but it's also very good to just read it out loud to yourself. You will find areas within your work where it's not very consistent voice-wise. So these are some good tips and tricks. All right, now we get into the real nitty-gritty of it, where we talk about documentation for all the different levels. This is a good stopping point. Is there any questions?
There's one in the chat box, so I'm just going to read it out to you.
Sure.
Dreepa asks, I meant to ask this during the last break. With regards to the participant who was ripped into when they were just a novice, how did the competition host handle the judges in this case? That sounds like a very difficult way to get new artisans to participate if the judges
Um,
are that harsh, even to someone they thought was advanced.
I am afraid. Oh, yes, to the example. Yeah. Well, it was kind of a, I would say a miscommunication. So usually, at the beginning of a judging session, it is really important for the entrant to say, "Hi, my name is this," and introduce themselves, introduce their project, and then verbally let the judges know, "Hey, I am a novice entry. This is how I wish to be judged." Okay, it is one thing, right, to say, I am a novice. Great, understandable. A lot of people will understand what that is and how to judge you. But it's another thing entirely, and it's totally within your right to say, hey, this is how I wish to be judged, right? A lot of people don't know that. So, to speak to that, um, as an advanced entrant, right? This could be an example, right? Hi, my name is Astrid Brenna's daughter. This is a entry I have done on null binding needles. I am entering this at a advanced level. And the type of judging I'm looking for is a lot of feedback to the criteria that the Kingdom has set because I plan to enter a championship entry next year. All right, that would be a good example of like verbally telling the judges ahead of time, hey, this is how I want to be judged. Another example of that for a novice would be like, hi, my name is Astrid Berna's daughter. I have an entry for you guys today that is of a bread recipe in the Burqa era Viking age. This is my first ever competition. Uh, I don't really want to be judged by the criteria. I just want to have a conversation about my work. Okay. This type of hi, my name is, and then laying out how you want to be judged is super helpful, not only for yourself, because you're kind of setting up that expectation, right? But also you're letting the judges know where you're at and how you want to be addressed. You're controlling that conversation. And I know that some of y'all might be a little bit hesitant around that, but I think that that is a very open and honest way to approach your judges, because we have to understand judges are people too, right? If you think about it, like they got there at either super early or just a little bit late, and they're rushing to get to their next entrant, and you kind of have to treat them like people too. Like they're not gods. That would be my answer to that question. I hope that answered it thoroughly. Are there any more questions? All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on. There will be a couple more places to stop. And of course, we'll have some time at the end of this presentation to just chit chat about all of our different experiences. I would love to hear more from y'all. All right. So documentation at a novice level. Now, this is where my opinion shines through. So take it with a grain of salt. For a novice in our kingdom, in the kingdom of Palantir, we only require a 3x5 note card. All right, with one or two sentences, up to 3 pages. Okay, that's definitely my opinion. That describes the inspiration for your work. Okay, the actual thing that you saw that you wanted to make, that you wanted to remake or make something in the style of, right? It also needs to describe how you did the work. It needs to cite at least one source. Okay, that could be the actual thing itself, the extent example, and you need to be able to give verbal feedback to your judges during your judging session. That is it. Like, I have helped people fill out novice um, documentation that has been a literal 3x5 note card with one sentence on it that said, "This is what I have made." And it described a leather kidney pouch, and we put the source to the web link for the actual kidney pouch itself on the note card, and that was it. All right, this was a entrant that it was their very first time entering, and they were super, 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 super nervous about entering, and they really didn't want to enter because they didn't want to do the document. And I said, no, we're going to do this. And and I helped them fill out the card so that they could have the good experience of going into the competition and getting feedback from other people within the kingdom. Now, that's a very big difference between the 3x5 note card with a couple of sentences and the 3 pages. And I know like a lot of people will be like, 3 pages, that's a lot. But once you start getting to that 3 page marker a little bit at or before, that's when you start moving into the documentation that is definitely into the intermediate area. Okay, so like most of us could probably, if we really enjoyed our work, which I hope most of us do, we could probably write 2 to 3 pages pretty easily about the thing that we made, or the thing that we saw that we wanted to remake. Okay, this is just like a generalized understanding of where people might be within their skills to move forward with understanding of how they should be judged. So this is my take on where a novice should be. An intermediate is going to have more information. Okay, I'm thinking about 4 to 6 pages, double spaced, with a bibliography included. This person gives their best try hard at putting their document into some sort of college formatting. Um, it will include a bibliography that has about 3 sources, right? And it will pretty much do everything that the novice entry did with describing the inspiration for the work, understanding what time period everything came from, the characteristics, the style. Um, it may also focus on the history of what was made, right? It will also describe the work itself, what the person did. It will mention the materials, the skills, the methods, the tools used to make the work. It will have a good understanding of the sources cited in a collegiate way. I'm looking for try hard, not perfection. So if you think about your formatting, MLA would be one of them. I don't expect perfection, I expect try hard. This will also include verbal feedback. And it will also talk about any type of compromises that had to be made. Okay, so this is not the intermediate level anymore. This is not the bare bones. This is going a little bit farther, right? An advanced document. This is kind of the gold standard. We're looking for something 6 or more pages long. Okay. There needs to be a really good understanding of the format that you're using. Okay. So any type of format, Chicago, MLA, which one you need to have a good understanding of what that is, and it needs to look like the format that you have chosen. I would expect all the same things, but a thorough discussion of where the items came from, the methods, materials, the skills, the tools used, as well as a very lengthy description about how you made the thing that you made. Sometimes these documents can be way longer, right? Way longer. I've definitely had my share of turning in 20-page documents. Please don't be like me. Okay. The judges will not like you. I have definitely turned in very lengthy documents before. If you have a very long document that is like hitting 6 pages or more, you may want to break those things up into summaries and have an index as well. So when judges go to sit down to look at your document, they can understand very quickly where they can find the information they want to find. Again, this is just from a document standpoint. The most important part about your project is the actual thing you've made. Yeah, so the advanced document, I would expect to have a very thorough description of the thing that inspired you, as well as how you made the artwork itself. Okay, now we're getting into display. Is there any more questions before we move on about documentation?
Yes, I'm reading one from the chat box. Nahama asks, what is your advice when your particular art is obscure or has many extant pieces but no written sources, i.e., native beadwork? Is it better to choose a well-known medium for your first competition?
No, absolutely not. Dude, make the thing that you want to make. Like, no, no, no. Make the thing that you want to make. Because again, the most important part of the entering an arts and sciences competition is the artwork you enter itself. Okay. So like you're like, man, there's no like true extant examples, or like there's the only thing there is extant examples. There's nothing written, there's no firsthand, there's no primary sources about this. Then use secondary sources. I am sure that somebody out there has written very lengthy articles about native beadwork, right? Just because these aren't from within our period doesn't mean that their knowledge isn't valuable. But when it comes to like putting in the extant examples, definitely source those extant examples. Make sure you have photographs of those work. Oh my gosh, half of my documents, like I say, I write 20-page documents. No, I write like 10 pages, and like half of my document is photographs of what I've done and examples of other things that I'm taking inspiration from. Yeah, I don't get caught up in that. I would say show your primary sources and use your secondary sources skillfully, right? I hope I answered that thoroughly enough. Are there any more questions on documentation before we move forward? We only have a couple more slides left. All right, we'll move on. I look forward to hearing from you guys at the end of this presentation. All right, so now we get down to the meat of it, right? We've trudged through the document, we have everything ready, and now we have to go to display. And sadly, much like, the criteria, and sometimes the document, display can get put on the back burner. This is a lost opportunity. So in these competitions, usually you will be given a 3x4 or equivalent area. It's usually a half of a folding table to display your work on. Okay, if you have bigger projects or projects that take a special consideration like alcoholic entries, you might be moved somewhere different or somewhere else. Sometimes you have to be outside for them. That's perfectly understandable. If you are entering in a championship entry, you get a full table all to yourself, if there's enough space. Unless there's a bumper crop of championship entries, which would be really cool. I want to see that one day. But usually you will get a half of a table, and you will get a number for your entry, as well as usually a bowl for tiny little trinkets and favors, which everybody likes to bring around. That's it. The rest of it is on you. So some of the things you might want to consider doing for your display, and the display can make a huge impact on how your work is seen. You might want to bring a table covering at the very minimum. These tables are usually either plasticky or veneered, and they're not very attractive. A lot of people will bring a couple of tablecloths or a scrap of cloth that would fit that area. It makes a big impact. Also, please remember to bring copies of your document. A lot of people will bring a document that people that come around to see all of the entries can like look at and pick up and read. And you may want to bring extra copies for each of your judges. Sometimes I will elect, if I have the time and the money, I will go and print some color copies for the judges, and have a couple black and white copies for everybody else, to save the trees. Also, like, think about elevating your work. And I know that, like, it's kind of vague, but like, I mean physically elevating your work. Um, as an artist, like, when I look at the display tables, they can kind of be sad sometimes. And they're at one level and everything is at one level. Sneaking a little bit of a box or a book, if your item is small, underneath your tablecloth and putting your item on top of that, or having actual risers for your pieces, can really set things apart. As well as, like, think about bringing some table decorations. Okay, I've brought books before that I have pulled my sources from. I have definitely brought rocks from Iceland when I visited Iceland in 2018 with my mama. And I put those rocks on display tables before. My next entry, I am actually considering getting fake gold leafing, deer antlers, and a specifically colored tablecloth just to display the very small bone project that I'm planning on making. So it's not just the project itself. Like, think about how your whole table is going to impact how your work is seen. Having an understanding of the elements and principles of design is a super good way to start building your display. And elements and principles of design, you can look them up on YouTube or Google, this would be color, line, value, scale, pattern, unity, um, things like that, and how those things impact how those visual representations impact people. Um, I just to harp on myself a little bit more, my last entry was a cooking entry, and over half of my table was just fresh fruits and vegetables in a display. The judges loved it, uh, but it made a big difference in how the piece was seen. So within your budget and within your level of comfortability, consider how your display will impact your entry. A good tip for this is to try it out beforehand. Um, and not just try it out, but like put it together, take a picture of it, and then tear it all down. And then, like, maybe a couple hours to a day later, look at that picture again and see what is looking really good and see what is not looking so good or what could be missing. That is a good way to visually solve some of those problems. All right, the big one, talking to judges. This one is hard. If you have a lot of social anxiety, this could be this could be something that really hinders you or really stops you from moving forward. But I would suggest pushing through it because it's fun. When it comes down to it, this is this is an opportunity for you to talk to other people about the thing that you love to do. All right. Within the society, we're all, pretty much all accustomed to like getting that random person that's like, "Oh, you do that? Tell me about that." And we all love it, but like the judging aspect of it can be kind of difficult to deal with. But I would encourage you to just think of it as a another day in the society where you get to share the thing that you love the most. To that, realize that your entry is like precious. It is needed. It is wanted. Okay, without people to enter arts and sciences competitions, there would be no arts and sciences competition. This is why we encourage people to enter. Um, Also, we talked a little bit about this. We had a question about this. You get to set the tone for your judging. So at the beginning, you get to tell the judges, this is how I want to be judged. And don't let them tell you any other way. Because this is for you. This is definitely for you. Where you want to go, what you want to do, how you want to be seen, um, how you want others to see your work. This is definitely for you. So go ahead and take some time at the beginning of your competition and let them know where you are, let them know where you want to go. Um, Also, let them know if you want to be scored according to the scoring sheet, which is also available in the Kingdom criteria under judging in the Kalantari website, um, and why you want to be scored. Okay, so like I gave an example of the advanced student wanting to be scored because they are going to be entering a championship entry soon. Okay, another good reason, and you really don't have to have a reason, you can just say, hey, I want to be scored. But another good reason would be just like to understand where you are, right? Um, Also, like minimize your negative self-talk, not only internally, right? Because we all have that internal voice, but also externally, right? As a teacher, okay, there's nothing more discouraging or disappointing going into a critique and having a student trash their own work, right? Like if you go in and you say like this work is tired, I really hated this portion of this work, I will never do this again, I didn't like this, all the judges are going to hear is tired, hated, didn't like, right? So putting in those positive words, or if you can't manage it, putting in the neutral words of like, this portion was super challenging. I learned not to do this. Um, I want to go back and change this portion of it. I wasn't happy with how this went, but having a more neutral tone can really impact how your work is being talked about. So understand that like it's not just like upfront setting the tone for it, it's also you setting the tone throughout your conversation. Um, yeah, think about judging as just another conversation about your work. People want to learn about your work. They're curious about it, but also you need to be curious about what the judges are saying, right? If a judge says something that you would like clarification on, please ask them for clarification. Um, this works really well if like you get a lot of negative feedback and be like, I never thought of it that way before. Could you say more to that, right? Or I never thought about that more. I'm gonna have to think about that some more, right? So be curious, ask questions. You are an active participant within your own judging. Um, Also, and yeah, I wouldn't know anything about this. Be mindful of people that monopolize time, right? I'm one of those people that can sit down and talk about anything forever. I can just talk, talk, talk and never stop. But if you have one of those judges that is just taking up a lot of the conversation, uh, interject yourself, insert yourself, and be like, "Hey, I would like to hear feedback from this person." Now, like you had something that you wanted to say. Sometimes helping that out a little bit can be very good in moving the conversation along. Not everybody is practiced at this, but it's important to your judging experience. Also, understand judges are people too. Um, it takes a lot of time and practice to learn how to judge and to be judged or to give and receive critique. Um, some people are very good at it, right? Some people aren't, and that's okay. The big one when it comes to this is you. If you are very graceful in receiving critique, that is wonderful. In fact, one of our members in this society that recently got elevated to Laurel, said that she believed her grace within taking critique in one of her competitions was the reason why she was elevated. So be patient, right? Be patient with your judges. And we can talk some more about how to handle those situations. But in the back of your mind, if you're very very nervous about like the rank and file of Laurel seeing you, being perceived, seeing your work, understand that there are more masters out there wanting students than there are eligible students wanting masters. Okay, I'm gonna say that again. There are more masters wanting students and there are eligible students seeking masters. So you are a precious commodity, if we want to say it that way. You are wanted and you are needed. Okay, so you have agency over your judging, and you have power. Okay, um, yeah, be an active listener. That's all I got. So yeah, this would be the last slide that somebody would change for the sign up for the mock judging, and this is definitely the end of our presentation. Thank you guys so much. Um, I appreciate you. And if we have any more questions, I would love to hear them.
I'm just going to read a comment. Birna wrote, I am a Trimaris Laurel who is a lamp worker. You can in Trimaris. I don't know how your kingdom would handle that, but I would say check first, then go for it. And that was posted at 7:57, so I'm not quite sure what that was in response to. I'm sorry. I just didn't want her comment to get lost in the fray either.
That might be to the last question about it about the native beadwork entry. Yeah, no, where there's a will, there's a way. Like there's been some entries that have had no criteria. Like that's why we have the miscellaneous criteria, right? Um, so that there are more opportunities for people uh, to enter projects that may not be completely mainstream, right? And I will definitely make this document or this PowerPoint presentation available to anybody who wants it. Also, I believe Vashti has set up a schedule for mock judging after this. Does anybody have any question about the mock judging? Because that was super fun and it's something that like we don't get to talk, I feel like we didn't get to talk about very much. Thank you guys too. I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. Everybody, please remember to fill out the credit form. I'm going to post that link again right here, and I will also stop recording now. Thank you.